As we head into the later stages of 2022, there's still a few games that are out there that are still on the minds of gamers all over the place. And here today to talk about some of those games that people are talking about. It's good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out at the Happy Hoarder. Plus also as well his great show, the Super BS Gamescast, and of course everything that he does right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It is my good friend indeed. It is our own man in the know when it comes to everything pop culture. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What is up? I know. Okay, first of all, this probably won't be relevant when people finally listen to this, but did you happen to catch the trailer for Andor this morning that was
I
just
did
dropped?
indeed. Yes, that's one of the things I caught before I caught my wink of sleep, and I used that one word, singular word, wink, as opposed to winks of sleep. Yes, I did go ahead and catch Andor. I thought it looks very promising. I know it's something that on the back half of 2022 that a lot of people are looking forward to. People are kind of up in arms or kind of bewildered why the Star Wars community at Disney Plus would actually be heading back to the world of Andor and everything going on there because we all know what happened to Andor and his
Yeah, it
ultimate
just
demise. But yeah,
mhm. it
yeah,
just it, it seemed like a weird thing to make a story about, like a story about a story about a guy that stole some Death Star. I don't know. It's just weird thing. I do love that they brought back like the Rogue One tone, though the
mhm,
that Gareth Edwards created.
absolutely. It looked very stylistic. I liked it. I think that it's going to be a series that you and I will be talking about with hopefully a very positive spin on it when it comes out, as it comes out. So if you're catching this and it's later in the year, we already talked to you about what's gone on with Star Wars Andor. So if you have any thoughts on Star Wars Andor, whether it's the trailer or the actual series itself, actually it's going to be, I think, September 18th. I think it starts as far as right around there with 3 episodes, which I thought was the real kicker to me. It's a 3 episode premiere. Why the 3 episode premiere? That seems to be
Um,
very interesting.
weird number. Yeah.
So yeah, that's very interesting. But yeah, please go ahead and check it out today. The trailer right there at Pop Culture Cosmos, or if you've checked out the series at all and you have some thoughts, please go ahead and let us know. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. But it is me, Gerald Glassford of Pop Culture Cosmos, along with my good friend, Mr. Josh Peterson. We are talking video games. And with 2023, a year that, again, earlier in the year, I had stated
2022.
2022, excuse me, 20. See, I'm already facing into 2023, but 2022 being a year that I think is underwhelmed for various reasons because of the catch up mode. I think that a lot of these
Mhm.
studios have had to go ahead and endure because of COVID. I think it just everything piled up. I think everything that they could put out in the first 3 years of this pandemic, they did for the most part. And for a lot of these studios, which had a lot of grandiose plans in 2022, they've had to delay it into 2023. Your thoughts on the scene here in 2022 before we go ahead and pick some games that you want to go ahead and talk about for 2022?
Yeah, it's been a weird year, and I feel like we're going to be playing catch up for a while. Looking at 2021, obviously a lot of things got delayed because of COVID. Going into
Mm,
2022, everyone's like, "Oh, this is the year we're going to be playing catch up." But I think that there's still they are overestimating just like how much work still needed to be done on a lot of these games due to everyone, whether it was working from home or just putting a pause on things in general. So it's possible. I mean, even 2023 might not be a big year. I honestly can say that. Like, I feel like 2024 will be like the next strong year for video games because as we're seeing in the news, like COVID is like not going away. Like it's still having its effects on people and workplaces. So it's will I mean, even will we ever get another great year like 2006? Like I don't know. You know, it's just it's a it's anybody's guess right now.
I think 2023 will be loaded. I think it'll be stacked with a whole ton of games as far as these games backed up. 2024 might be the same. And then hopefully by 2025, it'll sort of kind of even itself out. But I
Mhm.
think we're going to have at least one good year, 2023 or 2024, where all these games that have been delayed are just going to stack up into one monumental year that will be something that we will always remember for some time to come. We always talked about 2007 being a great year. You
Yeah.
said what 2017, 2018, one of those years being a great year for you as well, as far as
Mhm.
the number of games that were produced. So I'm thinking that 2023 right now looks to be a mammoth year for all the game releases that are coming out, supposedly. But if they get
Yeah.
delayed into 2024, then 24 could actually be the one that steals the show for this decade.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and like I said, it's just it's with the way I guess COVID, I guess, keeps coming and going, and you know the work from home protocols are coming and going. Like it's really hard to tell like how what things are going to look like. You know.
Absolutely. But right now, seemingly, there's going to be a great year on the horizon in 2023. But we'll keep you apprised of what's going on right here at Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source as we go ahead and detail the video game industry at large. I know that July was doing a little bit better as far as some releases are concerned, but for the most part, this has been a soft year. I know a lot of people are saying great things about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for the Nintendo Switch. I know that some other individuals out there had a chance to go ahead and get the final DLC for Cuphead, and I think that's
Mhm.
something that I think a lot of people should remember how great Cuphead was. But Delicious Last Course was a very well received DLC, a final edition for earlier this year, but I guess there's some games that are still out there that are scheduled to come out this year that we can talk about. But what are those? So what are those? So some what? So what are some of those games that you would like to talk about for this year that are scheduled at this point in time in our conversation still yet to come out?
All right, so I'm gonna. I mean, just for the sake of a general audience here, I'm gonna I'm gonna stick with the ones that are kind of outside the realm of indies. You know, we have our big AAA titles or AA titles. I'm gonna start in the month of August here, and we have, of course, you know, every year we have Madden NFL 23
Mhm.
that will be releasing to PS5, Xbox, PS4, Xbox One, PC, the usual suspects. And that will be August 19th. But you know, on August 23rd, we have an interesting one, and this is one we've kind of talked about a little bit. Um, Saints Row, like this is a complete reboot of Saints Row coming to PS5, Xbox, PS4, PC. What are your thoughts on this, though? Do you think that this is going? I mean, it looks crazy, like it looks cool, but at the same time, like, was anyone really clamoring for a Saints Row like reboot? I guess was this called for?
Not one that I think might not have the type of style and humor
Mm-hmm.
and individuality. I think that the previous iteration of Saints Row, all three iterations of Saints Row 1, 2, and the third, had. I think that's something that I think, from what I'm seeing, is missing in
Yeah.
this version of Saints Row. I think this is more a straightforward game, as opposed to a game that's trying to get by on its personality. Because you got to remember, when the Saints Row series first came out, GTA was, as it is now, super hot, and everybody wanted to jump on that open world bandwagon. They all wanted to go ahead and have that type of game that was
Well,
going to rival GTA
yeah.
at that point in time. And
And that
now,
was a weird era too. Remember we had
yes,
like Crackdown and we
yeah,
had uh,
just, Just a
bunch of games. Yeah.
yeah, bunch of open world games similar to what we saw with GTA. GTA clones. We were calling them GTA clones, but Saints Row was considered by many to be one of the best GTA clones because of the fact that it had its own style and personality, and it chose to go ahead and mock and also showcase a lot of humor of this video game style at that point in time. Flash forward, what, over 10 years later, now 15 years later, from when it was really something that people were talking about, at least the first one, anyways. And now you have a game that's been rebooted that I think that is more of a standard, traditional, I guess, just normal looking open world game. And
Yeah.
now that people are so familiar with open world games, I'm not sure people are clamoring for it anymore. And like you said, no one was really asking for this reboot.
No, it kind of reminds me of Rage, right? Like Rage
Yes.
1 was a good game, you know, it had Fallout vibes to it. It took itself seriously, but then Rage 2 came out and they had seen like the following that Borderlands had, and they're like, how can we make this game more like Borderlands? And like I think that that game did poorly because nobody really wanted it.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm not on the fence. I mean, I'm not on the bandwagon of Saints Row this time around. I
Mhm.
was in the original, but it's gonna have to do a lot to sell me to get me back into the world of Saints Row once again.
Absolutely. So that comes out August 23rd for anyone interested in that. You know, the last few things in August here are kind of like remakes or not reboots, but like remasters. Sorry. We have Pac-Man World Repack. I had some decent memories of that as a kid, you know, playing that on Sega Genesis. I remember in the arcades. That's something you're really clamoring to play, or is that just kind of like
No, I
yeah.
mean, Pac-Man, I never was in love with then. I did play it, but it was
Mm,
something I really wasn't that super into. I know there's been
yeah.
so many dozens and dozens and dozens of variations upon the original Pac-Man since, you know, going from Miss Pac-Man to Pac-Man Land to so many different styles of what we've seen with Pac-Man. And I
Yeah.
know
This is
even
like a
in
Mario style game.
yeah, but
Yeah.
even in this century, there has been pretty good versions of Pac-Man that have already been released, like Pac-Man
Mhm.
Championship Edition when it
Oh,
came
for
out
sure.
in the first decade of the 2000s. That was very much lauded as a tremendous game. I know that in recent times there's been a Pac-Man reboot or Pac-Man version of a game that really a lot of people have been also looking forward to as well. So this is another, I guess, a reimagining of
Mhm.
the Pac-Man game and the Pac-Man genre and the Pac-Man motif. I don't know. I just don't think that it's going to get the kind of love I think that people are hoping for simply because of the fact that again, how many iterations of Pac-Man can you really go ahead and do?
No, you're right. It's a very obscure property too. Like it's, you know, of all the things, why am I going to go back and play something like that? That's not to say that it won't find an audience, but that comes out August 26th for all major consoles. This next one I know you're familiar with, Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed, and that hits all major consoles and PC August 30th. But is this something you see yourself going into?
It's got to have the humor. That's the
Mm,
thing. I mean, I enjoyed so much not only the first time around, way back when the first one came out, but the reboot, the reimagining of that. When I got a chance to go ahead and review it once again, I had so much fun, and it was so entertaining for the original Destroy All Humans that when I went into the reboot, I even had a better time because of the things that they cleaned up and made so much better and so much prettier about the game. Now you're talking because of that successful reboot, they went ahead and decided to go ahead and make a sequel to Destroy All Humans. So I don't know. It's all about the humor. And if the humor's not there, this game will fall flat. I mean, this game will definitely
yeah.
fall flat.
It looks like it's got a pretty cool co-op mode.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that comes out August 30th, all major consoles and PC. Last one for the month of August would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga collection. It's just kind of a collection of all the older Ninja Turtle games. The last one that came out as a the arcade game that you could play on consoles was
Yes.
it came out to decent praise, and it was, I would call it successful. So, whether or not this one will get any traction, we will see. But
Yes.
it is for those of you who like to have video games as a collector's item. There are many versions of this game coming out, so you can check that out August 30th. All right, moving here into September. This one is kind of this is another remake, Last of Us Part 1 on PS5, and that comes out September 2nd. This game, I tell you, like I mean, this is going to be a Black Friday game for me. I have
Yeah.
a feeling that it's going to come out Black Friday. It'll be like $25. I'll pick up a copy of it. But
That's what usually happens for the games in September that come out in
oh,
September. They usually
yeah.
just drop it like crazy in November.
Yeah, and that's why I love Black Friday so much, because I don't have to buy games in like September, October, even November because they're all on sale. But I just like, what are your thoughts on releasing a remake of a game that nobody was really clamoring
It's
for?
already been remade.
Yeah, it's already been remade at a $70 price point.
I'm not in favor of it. I mean, The Last of Us is a great game. Cannot wait for the HBO series with. Cannot wait for the HBO. Cannot wait for the HBO series with Pedro Pascal. I'm looking forward to that show and that series on HBO. I'm really just not enthused paying another $70 for something that maybe is a little bit better looking, is more enhanced as far as some of the features that they're trying to put into it, but really it doesn't do much for me playing it for a third time around. And in some cases, people will be playing it a third time around. And I think that's way too much to ask, even for something as great as Naughty Dog making another reimagining of The Last of Us.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same thing with like Spyro the Dragon for me. Like, I loved Spyro as a kid.
Mhm.
But would I have paid $60 to play just Spyro when it was remastered for the Ignited trilogy? No, but the fact that I was able to play those other two games with it made it worth my time. Like, this is something that Sony is trying to prove that they're not like money. They're not in it for like money is not the most important thing, but they do a poor job at it. It's a
Yeah.
$70 price point is not for me. But if it is for you, September 2nd, PS5, you can pick it up then. Moving into September 9th here, we got NBA 2K23, more of the same. That comes out on all major consoles and PC. And then that same day, we have Splatoon 3. Okay.
Mhm.
That comes out on Switch. This is a major. This is becoming a major esports player. Do you think that we're, as someone who's in the area in Las Vegas, you think that we're going to see Splatoon rise to the levels of League of Legends one day?
No, I think this game came out with some energy behind it, and it came out with a community that it built, but it never expanded beyond the levels I think that it needed to in order to become one of the mainstays of the Nintendo library, one of the Mount Rushmore of
Mhm.
gotta have it Nintendo icon titles. I think it had a chance, it had an opportunity to, and I know we've spoke about it on the show when it first came out, as far as that the possibility of it heading in that direction, but
Yeah.
it never quite caught on to the level I think that it needed to. I think it's still a fairly successful in the eyes of Nintendo series that is worth continuing, and of course the fact that it is a rare, successful multiplayer game that's not named Mario Kart is obviously a big win for Nintendo in and of itself,
Yeah.
but I don't see it at the level of any of the Mario or Zelda games at this point. I don't think it's going to be remembered as a game that's going to break the bank unless it does something dynamic. It has been a solid seller, a very, very, very solid seller on the Nintendo Switch. That's why there is a Splatoon 3, but I don't think it's to the point where everybody is going to go ahead and go into another game of Splatoon that they got to have it. I think it caters to a community like Overwatch. Overwatch, I think, is a very comparable to it as far as this was a game that I think a lot of people had ideas on and thoughts on. In fact, we commented time that it had that type of potential for a breakout super hit, and it got to that. It got close. They had the leagues that were after it. They had the Overwatch League that was part of it that we actually talked about and reported on, and it just never quite got to that level of a super hit, a mega hit that
Yeah.
I think that it needed to get, even with Overwatch 2 coming out. Splatoon 3 is the same thing for me. I think that it's a good game. It's a very much beloved game, but not to the level I think that it will reach an all-time multiplayer status. It's not going to be reaching the heights of whatever your the favorite, or just the I guess the Fortnites, the Call of Duties, the even the Battlefields. I'm not sure if it'll reach that level. Well, actually, the last Battlefield stunk, so maybe it could reach that level pretty easily. But I just don't think, as far as a multiplayer game, it's going to reach the height of heights that I think that people will always put it in that realm of Call of Duty or Fortnite.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I do appreciate though how Nintendo is trying pretty hard to make their
Yes.
games accessible, and they're teaming up with esports leagues to try to like bolster, their properties in that arena, which
And it
is
will catch on. It will catch on, and it will have its niche and it will have its crowd. But I just don't think it's going to be
no,
catching on to the level that everybody's going to be talking about. I think
yeah,
if it would or did, it would have already.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree with you. All right, so that's September 9th on Nintendo Switch. This next one, September 13th. This is on Xbox Series X and S and PC. This is something we saw when the Xbox originally, remember when they're showing us the during the Xbox Series X conference that they had, and we had this
Mhm.
game has not been talked about since, Warhammer 40,000 Darktide.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, absolutely. A good friend of mine that's appears on every week, the Demolition Force, and also Vampires Vitae, Robbie Ross, the husband of Melinda Barkhouse Ross, absolutely loves anything relating to Warhammer, and I
mhm.
guess Henry Cavill does as well. So I think that this
Yeah.
is going to be something, especially the Vermintide series, which I more am in love with because of the fact that I think it recreates that Left 4 Dead style. The Vermintide series is a very close proximity to Left 4 Dead, and I love those fast-paced, frenetic first-person shooters. So I'm hoping that this version of Warhammer will actually be something I can really get into as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never actually played one, but seeing the video during the Xbox conference and just hearing I've heard some good reviews about some of the past properties that have come out. So it's like I'm curious, I'm curious enough to like go pick up a copy, or hopefully if we're lucky this will drop on Games Pass and I'll be able to play it for free. But yeah, I don't know. This is a series I've always been fascinated by. It seems to
Well,
have
you
like
don't actually play anything on the Games Pass for free because you kind of pay for the
you
service.
pay for it, yeah, but I mean, it's like Blockbuster. It's like having an AMC movie pass.
Unless you're me that has a whole bunch of Bing points. But then again, everybody uses Google instead of Bing. Use Bing. It earns you earn a
It
lot
it
of
does.
points.
It does. There's actually like you can go into the Xbox Rewards app.
Hmm.
Really cool thing too. You get rewards just by playing and getting achievements. Um, but if you do like I think it's like 25 searches on Bing per week, you get like I want to say like 150 to 200 rewards points on Xbox to be spent on like gift cards and things like that. Really cool.
Well, that's nice. That's why I have 150,000 Bing points waiting for a wonderful time on Xbox Games Pass.
Yeah. All right, so the rest of the month is kind of owned by Square here. We have the Diofield Chronicle that will be released on PS5, Series X, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, September 12th. Valkyrie Elysium, which I think that this one, I think It's Elysium or Lilith. One of them is a remake, and one of them is a brand new game. I can't remember which one's which because I'm not familiar with this franchise. I know Brian Wegner of the Super BS Games cast is, but I am slightly interested though. You know, like if there's a lack of anything else that I'm playing at that moment, I might go in and pick these up. Do you have any? You know anyone that's interested in the Valkyrie franchise?
Uh,
This
the
is an old
Valkyrie,
one.
yeah, I actually played the Valkyrie video game series
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, and I actually had kind of fun with it because it was interesting to try and go ahead and see if you could chop off a lot of chop off a lot of heads and do a lot of destruction on it. But I think that at the time it only went so far. It was very short lived in its success. I think at that point in time, it just only could do so much as a on rails video game. It really is very straightforward in what it wanted to achieve. And of course, my gosh, if you've ever seen the movie itself, Uwe Boll, they have I guess he is one of the worst video game directors that's ever lived, as far as one of the first worst movie directors that's ever lived. And if you get the chance to see all of his terrible video game adaptations, Valkyrie, I think, fits right in as a terrible, terrible film.
Okay, so Valkyrie Profile Lilith is the remake, I guess, or re what do you call it when it's not remaster? Sorry, is the word I'm looking for. Whereas
See, I lost track.
Valkyrie,
Remaster,
you know, it's
reboot, yeah,
the
reimagining.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then re
I've got
Valkyrie.
a. Hey, you know what? I've got a headache from redoing
I
all that.
for real. And Valkyrie Elysium is the brand new game coming out. So if
Now, that
you're
doesn't mean I don't mind seeing it or enjoying it or trying to go back into it again. I just spoke of earlier a reimagining of Destroy All Humans. When you do it right and you do it fun, it's going to be something I really want to get back into. Like 13, unfortunately, that was terrible as far as a remake is concerned. So embarrassing to the company that they had to apologize and take it off the Steam
and it's
store
being
until they.
remade again, yeah.
Yes, yes. So it's being remade again. So with Valkyrie, I'm just hoping it's good because again, it was an average video game at best when it came out. I know a lot
Mhm.
of people still have fond memories of it, but I think that they need to put things in perspective that it was an average video game, and when it comes out, hopefully the enhancements will make it an even better video game experience now, but kind of have my doubts.
It's been 10 plus years since this franchise has been touched. So it was
Yeah.
surprising to see, you know, during the not Nintendo, sorry, the PlayStation 5 conference that this was announced.
Yeah.
Uh keep my fingers crossed though, might be good. All right, so we're looking here. We have October moving on. We talked about Overwatch, and Overwatch 2 is being dropped October 4th. This is coming to all major consoles, PC. Big question here, big I guess idea looming over everybody's head here. What is going to happen with Overwatch 2, especially in the wake of all the stuff that's going on at Blizzard? I, for one, like as you know, I coach esports at the school I work at, and the contract that the company that I do esports through, they canceled their contract with Blizzard over all the stuff going on, which means that the kids are no longer allowed to play Overwatch. So, do you think that Overwatch 2 is going to see, especially with Microsoft at the head, is it going to see a return to esports fame and fortune, or do you think that this is going to be something that gets pushed under the radar?
Well, let me ask you a question on this. They can still go home and play Overwatch 2.
Yeah, but they can't play it in an organized league, and that's I guess that's the big thing here is that you know it had huge esports contracts. Like they were making a lot of money out of it, getting a lot. It was getting a
Well,
lot
the
of
Overwatch
publicity.
League, as I mentioned earlier, Jay Bartlett and I had a great conversation back in the day in the Pop Culture Cosmo archives
Mhm.
you can find right now on it. So, yeah, absolutely. I remember that. But the thing is, now flash forward years later, and yes, it still wants to be an esports property, but isn't it going free to play?
It is going free to play, but the big question here is, you know, with all the stuff going on at Blizzard, it's kind of lost a lot of popularity, I guess would be the word, and it's lost a lot of contracts. So
Well, I also think it's just lost a lot of popularity because they didn't keep it fresh over time. I
Mhm.
think,
And yeah,
uh,
and the sequel's taken forever to come
yeah,
out.
but even Overwatch, as far as the enhancements and everything, a sequel doesn't have to. As far as okay, you said it took a long time for a sequel. I think when it comes to a multiplayer shooter or multiplayer experience like Overwatch, they just needed to go ahead and keep it fresh, keep it interesting, keep it on the cusp of what gamers are talking about, especially multiplayer gamers that are out there that really are looking forward to that esports experience. And
Mhm.
Overwatch definitely could have been that,
Could have.
but unfortunately, they didn't do what they need to do to keep it fresh, to keep it exciting. I mean, we see games today again like Fortnite. It's not no it's no longer the behemoth it once was, but it's still extremely popular out there.
Mhm.
And there are other games like Apex Legends, which now is over a couple years old, which is now very popular even to this day. Call of Duty Warzone, same thing. There are multiplayer experiences. Heck, the GTA Online experience is still popular this day, and it's been out for many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the online experience can still be, as far as a multiplayer platform, successful for several years. You just have to go ahead and keep it fresh. So, Overwatch 2, yes, it did take a while coming out, but they didn't keep Overwatch fresh enough as a product in order to go ahead and make Overwatch 2 something everybody's going to be talking about.
Right, right. And okay, so here let's look at, another side of Overwatch that people tend to overlook, right? Like they have comic books, right? They have comic books, they have animes, they have action figures, all these things to kind of further expand on the mythology that is Overwatch, but they will not do a single player mode for that.
Mhm.
Do you think that that's kind of shooting themselves in the foot, or do you think it would matter?
I don't think it would matter for something like Overwatch 2 that with the Overwatch whole IP, I don't think people really care about if there's a single player experience or not
Yeah.
for Overwatch. I think that if Call of Duty, it's different. Call of Duty had for years always had the single player,
Mm,
the multiplayer experience, and then later on tacked on the zombies to it.
yeah.
And when they cut out the single player experience, there was an uproar for people who just played the single player
Oh, for sure.
experience.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised how many people there were that just play the single player experience.
That
Same thing
was
with
me for
Battlefield.
a time. Yeah, the
Mm,
same. That was me for a while. So I'm going to say that no, nobody's going to be really up in arms over the fact that
mhm.
there's no single player experience. They just want a good multiplayer experience with Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Will it catch on a free to play format? I mean, so many games now, Destiny and so many others have gone to a free to play format and style looking for fame and fortune once again. I don't know. Will it find that success? It is now a very crowded market. It is no longer 2015 where free to play games could stand out in the marketplace. They're now a dime a dozen that's out there
Mhm.
from all over the spectrum. I mean, Genshin Impact. There's so many others that games that are out there that are just really that a lot of people love to get into,
Yeah. And it's
free to
proven
play
to be
or
a
not.
very yeah, right, and it's proven to be a very, like, lucrative business model for a lot of these companies, looking at Genshin Impact and the ability to buy characters and clothes and weapons and, even looking at something like, Call of Duty, right? Like, the
Yeah,
ability to buy skins, Fortnite, things like that, like, it's proven
mhm,
to be a very lucrative, business model for people because obviously it's working or else people wouldn't keep doing it, so
yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it does. That's October 4th. October kind of kicks off gaming season for this year. Every year has like a run of games coming out. So we move from Overwatch 2 to Marvel's Midnight Suns, PS5, Series X, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, all the major players, PC. That's October 7th. We don't really know a lot about this. They haven't really shown a whole lot about this besides some cool cinematic videos. So I don't really know what to expect from this. Is it a top-down game, kind of in the style of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, or is it going to be more like the Square version of Marvel's Avengers? I don't really know at this point. So, what is this something you think you might be excited to play?
I'm not too excited to play, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be a very popular game because I don't always go to the traditional where everybody goes to and leans into, but I can recognize hits early on when you see a lot of people jumping on it. You hear the talk, you hear the buzz, you see the
Mhm.
buzz on social media about games that are really popular. So I'm really looking forward to going ahead and seeing what if it is going to be a game people will follow. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that people will go ahead and actually will follow it. And if that's the case, then maybe I'll keep a little bit stronger eye on it if that's the case. But right now, no, I don't have very much of a
Yeah.
affinity for it at this time.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I want to know more about it.
Absolutely.
Moving into October 3rd, sorry, October 14th, we have Dragon Ball The Breakers. I don't know how much you've seen on this game. It looks like something that does not quite know what it wants to be.
Mhm.
Is it like you have all from what I understand, all the cool stuff happens in like the waiting rooms for the game. So I don't know. Like I think Dragon Ball has found some success, with Kakarot and Xenoverse and all these and their Tenki Budokai series. Like I think they've found success, but I feel like this is one of those games that doesn't quite have an identity yet.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that it's something that could find an identity, but still, it's something that has to go ahead and be a well received game in order to find its identity and
Mhm.
find a crowd large enough to go ahead and support it continuously.
Yeah. All right, so we have moving on. We have Plague Tale Requiem. That's a PS5, Xbox, Switch, PC game, October 18th. Very beautiful looking game. And we saw some of that at the Xbox conference. I still want to play the last Plague Tale. I know I downloaded it, but I haven't had a chance to like sit down and play it. This game does look neat. Any thoughts on that one?
I know I've actually experienced it only in brief encounters. I've seen more of it than I've actually played of it, just because of the fact that for me it just touches on genres I'm not too interested in,
Mhm.
but it's something I think that if given the advanced word on it, I could get back into it. I could get into it. Who knows?
All right, so the rest of the month is huge in game releases. So we have Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. That's Switch October 20th. Scorn on Xbox and PC October 21st. Gotham Knights PS5, Xbox, PC October 25th.
Hmm.
Star Ocean: The Divine Force PS5, Xbox, PC October 27th. Bayonetta 3 October 28th. That's on Switch. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, that's on all major consoles October 28th. Resident Evil Reverse, that's the multiplayer Resident Evil. That's on PS4, Xbox, October 28th. And the expansion for Resident Evil Village Winters expansion, that's on all major consoles October 28th. I know I just named a grip load here. Are there any of these these titles that stick out to you?
We've always loved Bayonetta here on the show. We've always thought it's underappreciated. It is one of the most critically hailed Nintendo IPs ever out there. I mean, people don't understand. They think, oh, okay, the Zelda series, and you have the Mario series, as far as some of the different Mario worlds that have been actually so well received, and of course, depending on the games, the Mario Kart games have been well received. But in the pantheon of Nintendo games, when you look at it, Bayonetta is one of the most lauded game series in history. Yet
Mm-hmm.
no one, well, I won't say no one, but yet so few people have actually experienced Bayonetta. Its style, its grace, its action, it's something you put the combos together and you see what kind of go ahead and hit chain that you could go ahead and create. How the number gets higher and higher and higher. It's so creative. The story is unique. It has a nice touch from the as far as the Japanese developers to just create a great story. It just seems to have a flavor all of its own, but yet it just barely moves along. It barely comes out with a bang, even though every single outlet from IGN to us here at the Pop Culture Cosmos to every single spot, game spot, just it doesn't matter. We all praise it, but the audience doesn't seem to clamor into it, and that's to me a very crying shame. But I think that it will go down in history as one of the most underappreciated and under the radar IP series of all time. And I don't expect anything different from Bayonetta 3 because they're putting out at a time where it's going to get overrun again by other games, even on Nintendo Switch. It just was a poor decision to bring it out when they did. If this would have come out earlier in this year, maybe would have gotten a lot more attention and the attention it truly deserves. But bringing out now later in the year, it's going to get buried once again. I'm just convinced of it. I don't want
Yeah.
to see it happen, but I'm just convinced it will.
Right. No, I agree. Bayonetta 3 kind of, or Bayonetta, sorry, the franchise kind of reminds me of Devil May Cry. Like it's
Hmm.
this very fun, stylized,
It's a
beautiful
better,
game, and it's
more well received than Devil May Cry.
yeah, and it's aware of itself, and I think
Yes.
that's one of like the great things about it. And yeah, it's critically praised, but then you see it at Walmart or Target a few months after it comes out, and the price has already been slashed in half because nobody's buying it.
Yep. And it's just the biggest shame. I know Star Ocean, a lot of people are hoping for a continuous success for the Star Ocean
Mm,
series. I know that I think that there's hopes that that could actually latch on in a larger fashion, but those games that you mentioned, a lot of those games outside of Mario Rabbids, that one I think is a hit series in of itself because actually on the Nintendo Switch, the Mario and Rabbids series actually is one of the most popular games on the series. So
mhm.
don't underestimate exactly the long term effects. And it's been a big hit for Ubisoft. And I think that they will continue that success with this version of Mario Rabbids. But you take Mario Rabbids out of the equation, you have a lot of titles that are actually in that same wavelength. And one may break out, two may break out, but then all of these could also get snowed under by what's coming up in November as well.
Yeah. I just want to finish on Resident Evil. Like I, for one, really loved the switch to first person with Resident Evil Biohazard, and looking at this winter's expansion, they're going back to a third person style of game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like I don't like it. Like I don't know if that's something that I'm gonna be excited to play. Like I remember okay, to me, third person shooters they're hit or miss. Mass Effect did it right, but there are games like Resident Evil 5 was hard to play, because the camera angles got annoying, and it always felt like there's a giant person right in your peripherals. Like I Mass Effect was cool because they did a good job of like putting Commander Shepard off to the side, like when you wanted to bring up your crosshairs, they shifted him over so that he wasn't the big focus in the screen. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that Resident Evil games before Biohazard struggled with, and I just don't know how I feel about making the move back to third person.
It's going to be very interesting to see Resident Evil. I mean, that's always been a hot button as far as the kind of things that they've done to it, the additions that they made, the changes that they've made. Resident Evil is always going to be something there. I think they just can't leave it alone. I
Yeah.
think that
Oh,
once they get it
absolutely.
right, like the previous Resident Evil game that came out, what, Resident Evil 7
Mm.
Village? Resident Evil Village was
Village 8.
well received, looks beautiful. The detail on the characters is tremendous, and now you're going ahead in a different direction, and or you're trying to go ahead and make games with the Resident Evil attachment name to it that aren't quite as quality as something like we've seen with Resident Evil Village. I think that when it comes to it down to it, Resident Evil is just again it's hit or miss for me, and I think it's
Mhm.
hit or miss for a lot of people where you have the base games which for the most part are so good, and then everything else that's attached onto it with the Resident Evil name on it, it just seems like it's just fodder. It's just
Yeah.
something that's going to be put in the clearance rack, like you said earlier with some of the other games. It's going to be put in the clearance rack rather quickly.
Yeah. Okay, we talk about Final Fantasy a lot. Final Fantasy, like, it works to have so many games, so many numbered entries because everything takes place a separate world, tells a separate story, so it feels fresh whenever you play it.
Hmm.
Resident Evil, like we're approaching like what 20 something games now, and it just the story seems to just keep going in circles. And
Yeah,
I loved Village, I loved Biohazard, but I just like I don't see how much life that this franchise has left in it.
I agree wholeheartedly. As long as they keep on the straight and narrow with the base games,
Hmm.
I think they'll be doing fine. It's when they go off the beaten path and you start doing like Raccoon City and all these
Yeah.
other offshoot games that they've created over the years that are trying to be add-ons that touch on different genres. I think that that's when they get in trouble, and it just seems like it's a sellout, and it's just something that they throw on there with the Resident Evil name, just try to get more cash. When you go for cash grabs, it doesn't work out in movies, television, or video games. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Absolutely. All right, so we're finishing off the year here. November and December have less games in them, but still some big titles. We have Harvestella that releases to Switch and PC November 4th. Skull and Bones is one that's been kind of talked about, not talked about,
Well,
buried.
let's okay. Let's talk
Buried.
about the miracle that is actually coming out after what fifteen
It's
thousand years in development.
and it's not going to be a complete game. Like this is, I have a feeling they just took a bunch of like random resources that had been crafted for this game and stitched them together and said, "Here's this pirate ship game
Well,
that
this
we
this
have
looks to
worked on."
me like a bigger issue with Ubisoft. I think that Ubisoft it's a company in and of itself that has a lot of these ideas and tries to make every one of them stick, even though that in their better judgment they shouldn't put out half the games that they do. They should
Hmm.
focus on a core niche of games. We talked about Mario and Rabbids, which they've achieved outstanding success. Of course, the Assassin's Creed games, Rainbow Six, and then after that, it's kind of a touch and go on what they put out. But they put out a ton of stuff under
Yeah,
all these different IPs. We talked about on a show earlier this year where we talked about the news that they're discontinuing a lot of games that they were had in development. So
yeah.
with Ubisoft, I think it's just something that they have to go ahead and focus in on just a few IPs, and I think they can get that right. But if they don't, and they just keep put out stuff all over the place, then you're going to get hit and miss from Ubisoft, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, they have a lot of games too that they've discussed at certain points and then just never talked about again. So,
Mhm.
and this is a lesson too that like what Bethesda had learned the hard way. You know, they put out a lot of games that they thought people would be excited about and ended up going away. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I don't know, man. I know Ubisoft, their future's so uncertain right now, especially with the rumors of them being bought out. I think Vivendi was looking into them. I'm not sure if that's
Well,
right,
so
but
many companies are looking into them.
yeah. So we'll see. You know, I know they got that Assassin's Creed conference coming up next month that people are talking about. So it's hard to say what's going to happen.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that comes out on all major consoles November 8th, and Stadia also. Man, Stadia is still hanging in there apparently. Uh,
Apparently.
apparently, this one's a Sony exclusive to PS5, PS4. God of War Ragnarok, and that comes out November 9th. I am personally excited about this. Love that game, or sorry, love the original God of War.
Well, I
Um,
want to applaud PlayStation for going into a different direction with this God of War. I mean, they could have
yeah.
easily fell into the trap of, okay, the previous edition of God of War, I'm saying the one that came out just a few years ago,
Hmm.
that told a beautiful narrative. It was so outstanding to look at. It was visually stunning, and it was such a departure from the hack and slash games
Yeah.
where you're tying the combo numbers together and all that. That I think it was just so beneficial to go into a different direction. It's one of those rare cases where a publisher and developer made the right move in making a game series from the past even better. I think it was a great direction for them to go in. I know it won a ton of the best of. I know it won a ton of the Game of the Year awards,
Yeah.
and I think that this is going to follow suit. Will it be as good? We saw with the Horizon game that came out earlier this year by PlayStation that it was well received. It got snowed under by Elden Ring, but that wasn't because it wasn't a good game. You
Yeah.
spoke highly of it, so I think that this sequel could follow suit. I don't know if it'll have the same kind of impact that the original rebooted God of War that came out just a short time ago, a few years ago,
Hmm.
that had a really magnetizing. hold on gamers when it came out. I'm not sure this will do the same thing, but I think it'll be at first well received and, like you said, well purchased initially because of the fact that there's so much love for the God of War series based off that previous success that they just had.
Yeah, yeah, the last God of War game is probably like my top game of the past 10 years. Like it was a beautiful game. I just hope that I know this is supposed to be the ending of the Norse saga, and I was expecting 3 games, so hopefully
Because everybody likes to do everything in threes.
it just makes sense, like a trilogy would be great. And they did the same thing with like what was it, God of War 3. They did 3 God of War games last time. So I guess
Remember
it's
they did God of War shoots offshoots too, though.
yeah, the PSP ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, I'm excited about this game. This is probably going to be like my biggest play in November.
Hmm.
Looking ahead, so that's November 9th. Looking ahead, we have a Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana is being put out on the PS5 November 15th. That's not really a new game, so we won't talk about that one. Finally, we're closing off the month with Pokemon Scarlet, Pokemon Violet.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Got to catch them
Pokemon,
all.
right? Yeah, Pokemon Arceus Legends did really well.
Hmm. My
Doesn't look
one of
like
my
there's
daughters absolutely loves the series.
yeah, and it doesn't look like there's a lot taken from that game because I know these were in production at the same time as that game was. So I don't know if like the stuff that they found out was successful from Legends is going to be incorporated into this one or not. But it looks cool. So Sword and Shield was kind of like a big 3D offering of the old Pokemon games, and
Hmm.
yeah, it was fun, but it was just kind of more of the same. So I'm kind of really curious, like what this is going to offer. They've got to do. I mean, like I said, Legends was a good step in a new direction for them, but I just like I don't know. It's these games are so formulaic. Like they've got to do something to get people interested in them again, and not just on like a gameplay level, but on like a storytelling level too.
Agreed. Very much agreed on that. So we'll see. I think that I have high hopes for it. I think that it will be a strong seller in the month of November and December. But if it continues on, it's just going to be the fact that it's going to be one of the best overall experiences of 2022. I think it has to achieve that level in order for it to continue selling strong well into the new
Mhm.
year.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is November 18th on Switch. And then finally, December, these are the only confirmed dates for December we have right now. The Callisto Protocol, that's December 2nd, all major consoles and PC.
Well, that's one thing I want to talk about. That's, I think, the new property that's coming out this year that is getting the most steam behind it. Sorry, pardon the pun with all you PC gamers out there.
Nice.
But I think that it's garnering the most attention. I think that they've gone out of the way to showcase it on various platforms, GameSpot, IGN, as far as putting it out there. I think the Callisto Protocol that's coming out in early December, correct?
Yeah, December 2nd.
I think that's a game that people need to look out for to see if it will become the next Dead Space or if it will just become a forgotten thing. But I think from what people are seeing and the reactions at this point in time, as we're recording this, I think it has a chance to go ahead and be a new IP that a lot of horror genre fans in the gaming world will want to get into.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that this started out as a PUBG add-on,
Yeah.
and then they kind of, as PUBG's popularity fell, I think is a good move for them to be like, oh, maybe we should make this its own thing. So it looks cool, looks great. It's probably a smart move that the Dead Space remake was moved into next year, and this game is
Mhm.
being released in December, so that we don't run into any people who would rather play. I think it's good that people are going to be able to play both games without feeling like they have to choose one over the other.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
Hello Neighbor 2, that's a PS5, all major consoles, PC, December 6th. And then finally Dragon Quest, that's Nintendo Switch on December 9th. And then I would just, I'll briefly go through things that have not been given release dates yet, but are supposed to be released by, during this year. We have Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot. That got delayed due to the war in Ukraine. We have the Atomic Heart that got delayed. I think that's also a Ukrainian or Russian company. I'm not sure which one.
Stalker 2 is another
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Stalker 2. Crisis Core Final Fantasy 7 Reunion is supposed to be put out in December. We have not been given a straight release date on that one yet. There's another Destiny expansion. There's a Final Fantasy Ever Crisis. Five Nights at Freddy's is supposed to have a game coming out. Ghostbusters Goat Simulator. New Gungrave game supposed to be coming out. Lara Croft game supposed to be released on the Switch. Other than that, give me a second here to go through these. And
Well, you haven't talked about the game that I think that will be at the top of the list in the sales charts for 2022, and that is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Call of Duty,
Because
yeah, sorry, that was back in what?
November, October, or not, or late November.
October 28th. Yep.
Okay. Well, it always comes. There's you just had the last week of October, first week of November as Call of
Mhm.
Duty time, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is a re-envisioning. We've gone back to the but a re-envisioning of the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 that actually came out over a decade ago, which found its own success. I wonder if they're going to go ahead and create a no Russian, which was
Mhm.
very controversial at the time, which, if it was done again in some form or fashion, would be controversial today.
Yeah.
So I don't know if what they're going to do there, but it is Call of Duty. I think Call of Duty, even though it has declined a little bit in sales over recent years, it's still the number one game that's out there selling wise each and every year. So I think that they're going to try to see what they can do to slow down that wrong way of momentum and try to go
Yeah.
ahead and rebound and try look forward to better sales if it's good, because they're
Yeah.
going back to a property that they can believe in the Call of Duty Modern Warfare world. They've had hits and misses in the past 10 years with some of the IPs in the range of what they've done with Call of Duty as far as Ghosts. Everybody knows how bad that was, and some
I
other
actually
iterations.
like
Wow.
oddly enough, like I like the single player in Ghost. I didn't play
Okay.
the multiplayer, so I
Well,
don't know
you
if I
know
would.
how well it was not received. I'm just going to
Yeah,
say that right
yeah.
now.
But
It's considered by many to be the worst of the Call of Duty games.
they what I do appreciate about Call of Duty, speaking of Ghosts, they're starting to incorporate stuff from
Advanced Warfare, Modern War,
yeah,
yeah.
they're
So
incorporating things from these other properties into in together, like they're
yeah.
creating this like shared universe, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is also that's probably going to be the number one game of sale, whether or not it's well received. It really doesn't matter. Even if it's a 7 out of 10, it still sells well enough to go ahead and be number one because of the fact that everybody seems, well, those that are within the Call of Duty community, they buy it. It seems like they have to go ahead and buy the latest edition once a year just so they can keep up with their friends in the new multiplayer arenas that they've got there for you. But I think there's another game that you missed that I wanted to talk about before we head on out, and that is Roller Drome. That's coming out in early August. I think that by the time that you hear this out there for all of our podcast listeners, it's already out there, and you can go ahead and get it already right away, right there for you on the various formats: PC, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5. I think you can go ahead and enjoy it quite a bit. It's out there. It's obviously taking the roller derby type format into a combat multiplayer zone. And I think that if you get a chance, check it out. It may not do everything that you wanted to do, but as far as being in a real cluster of many different players and many different outlooks as far as it's concerned, but being in a futuristic world where you go ahead and are basically fighting for your life and trying to go ahead and utilize several weapons at your disposal while you're going around with roller skates, essentially. I think the concept is there. I think it's different. I think it might be something fun to look at. But again, it's coming out August 16th, or it came out August 16th. If you're hearing this in the future tense, the future sense as far as down the road. So I think if you get a chance and you missed it when it came out August 16th, I think you ought to give it a chance because it's something different. It's something that probably will get reduced in price rather quickly as far as being at a discount, especially
Probably,
on
yeah.
Steam. Yeah, so I think you might want to give it a chance if the reviews are strong when it comes out or when it came out August 16th.
Yeah, I know that game's having some development issues right now. I remember reading something about it. I don't remember exactly what they're saying, but hopefully it comes out the gates strong. Because we also have like the dodgeball game. I forget what that one's called too, but they're finding interesting ways to recreate the multiplayer genre. So hopefully something will catch.
Well, we've had a great time talking about all the games that are still yet to come out as we're recording this, that are coming out the rest of 2022, the ones that are scheduled and the ones that hopefully will arrive in 2022. But any last thoughts? I know, again, 2023 is going to be stacked. If everything holds to play, it's going to
Hopefully,
be stacked.
yeah, I hope
But
so.
but any last thoughts on 2022 in the world of gaming before we head on out?
Well, I mean, traditionally, at the end of the summer, Sony and Microsoft have had like second conferences. So, I mean, it's possible we're going to be getting some more release dates here soon. But I
Right
don't
around
know,
Gamescom.
right around Gamescom. Yeah. But I mean, looking at October's already packed. It'd be foolish to put something out then. November has room for some things. December definitely has room for some things. So, I don't know. Anything's possible at this moment. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think 2023 is going to be the year for gaming.
If you had one game in 2022 that you could only, if you only enough money for one game to go ahead and get out of the entire group that we've talked about today, what game would that be?
That's a tough question. It'd probably be God of War Ragnarok, but that kills me because like those are only like 6-hour games. You know, so I mean, if I could only play one game all year, I'd probably invest in an RPG like whether it's Final Fantasy, ever the Crisis Core Reunion, or if it's Star Ocean Divine Force. I'd want something that would last me a while. But foolishly, I would probably buy God of War Ragnarok because I love that last game so much.
Foolishly, I think you would as well, my friend. I think probably God of War would be a strong choice for me as well. I think it just for me though, I think there's no real game that stands out as I gotta have it. I think that's the problem for me.
Yeah.
There's no game for me that says I gotta have it. Like with you and God of War, God of War Ragnarok to you is something that speaks to you because of how great an experience you had with God of War. God of War to me was a great game for me, but not to the point where I got to go and have it right away at $70. I think
No.
I'm the guy that says, you know what, I'll get God of War Ragnarok down the road when it's at a discounted price because I'm not in a hurry to get it.
Yeah.
But and that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a great game. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a great experience, which I think it will, because I think a lot of people are going to go ahead and just find the love for God of War and Kratos once again.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So that's our thoughts on the year 2022 and what's still scheduled to come out. I hope this won't be too dated by the time this actually comes out to our podcast listeners out there. I mean, I'm hoping that all these games that are still on the board for 2022 will come out in 2022. But if you have thoughts on the year in gaming in 2022, if you have thoughts on what you would like to see or what you're excited for coming up in 2022, please, absolutely please, let us know. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, it's been a great episode. I cannot thank you enough, as always, for being a part of it. Just a great look into the world of gaming for the rest of 2022. Any thoughts? Any last thoughts before we head on out?
I think that's it, man. I think we got it.
All right. Any shots for the happy hoarder out there, my friend?
I mean, it's coming along. I'm in the process, the paperwork. I'm doing the paperwork right now, and this is like the worst part for me because like there's so much of it, and I'm just trying to like keep track of it all. So once I get through the paperwork phase, I think the happy hoarder will be a little happier.
Well, that sounds like you're hoarding the paperwork.
hmm
Sounds like you're getting good practice in.
Absolutely.
So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great